this morning that fits perfectly into what we're going to talk about, which is kind of the future of sustainable ag, conservation. Why is this important? Why is it important to adopt cover crops? Why is it important that we do reduce surge and optimize tillage and some of those practices? Why is it important that we do improve nutrient optimization, balance our soils, utilize new products, improve biology, that kind of stuff? Why is it all important? I think this kind of sums it up. An article I was reading this morning about the future of food. And this says, okay, so at the end kind of deal, it says, why are all these technologies important? It was laying out some different technologies coming into human health and food space. It said 2 words, which will drive the future of food for decades. Personalized nutrition. That's what it boiled down to. Okay, and this article is talking about knowing the microbes in your gut, because those microbes are communicating with your brain, telling you the food that you need, the nutrition that you need, which tells you what you're hungry for, and that's why we get certain cravings and whatnot. I was talking about assessing our human DNA to understand how you're going to metabolize certain kinds of food. Our DNA is set up to be able to metabolize certain kinds of carbohydrates, certain kinds of proteins, certain kinds of fat differently than other people. That's why we have different metabolism and whatnot. We respond differently to different kinds of food. And they were talking about having that nutrition and whatnot, knowing exactly what your blood needs, knowing exactly how your body is going to metabolize different kinds of food, and then specializing your diet, specializing the food that we put into our bodies to align with high-tech information of what our body actually needs. And I responded back on the article actually, and I said, because they of course were talking about that we can now specialize that food by growing it in a lab and that kind of stuff, culturing meat and culturing proteins and that kind of stuff. I'm like, that's kind of worries me and worries a lot of the farmers that we work with, It was predicting that about 5 to 10% of the meat will be like lab raised fake meat, I call it, but 5 to 10% over the next 15 years or something like that is what he was talking about. So to me, that means, okay, we've got 99, even if that happens, we still have 95% of the food that we're eating, the protein that we're eating is still conventionally produced and whatnot. And it's the way that we're doing it right now. So I said, okay, we can raise food in a lab and produce it ourselves, put the nutrients into it and fine tune the food specifically for our nutrition, not personalized nutrition like it said. But we can also do the same thing into the soil that's raising the food that we're eventually eating. Whether that soil is raising lettuce or a fruit or vegetable that we're going to eat directly, or whether that soil is raising corn or soybeans that are going to be fed to an animal and then it's fed to us. It's all still connected to that soil. And that, I think, is the whole premise of the day is we need to improve our soils because there's environmental impact and conservation and that kind of stuff. And we need to produce more yield. There is going to be more people on the planet. Other areas of the world are producing more as well, so it's not just going to be us that's going to feed the world. Everyone else is going to do it too. But we need to understand that everyone's nutrition is going to be personalized. So we need to focus not only on improving the quantity that we're producing, but producing better quality as well. That's why the soil is important here today, and that's what we're going to get into. Just a tad on me, grew up 10 minutes away from here off the Riverside Road. I've got a soil health consulting company in Washington called Continuum Ag. We work with a lot of the same folks that you guys do, and my overall takeaway there is we want to work with you guys. We've had a good relationship already with many of you. We want to continue to work together. Happy today to be able to put a face to a name and be able to, create a strong working relationship here going forward. I think we do have a lot of synergies be able to build off each other on. I've got Natalie and Ryan are over here with me as well. They help me out, and I've got a precision agronomist, Josh, also who helps make recs and whatnot, making nutrient recs driven by the stuff that we're going to talk about here today. We farm there off the Riverside Road. Dad's actually here with me too, and we've been practicing what we preach out there on the farm. Definitely would love to have any of you guys out too and keep in touch and see what we've got going on. Here's just a couple of pictures on it. But you can find me online. All this stuff is out and available online, or drive along the Riverside Road. You'll see some of this stuff. Using a lot of cover crops, trying a lot of new products, experimenting, trying to figure this stuff out. And like Dave brought up, Washington County, Southeast Iowa is definitely a hot spot for soil health and conservation. We've got guys in this area that we all work with that have been doing this stuff for decades, since way before soil health was a thing and conservation was a thing. And so we've known that for a long time. We have a good conservation culture here. My talk today is to educate you guys on here's where this goes, here's why it's important, and here's how we help our farmers to be prepared. That way we are reaping the benefits. Really gets to 1 and 2, kind of like Dave said. So I'm going to talk about sustainable agriculture and soil health, and a little bit more tactical on how we actually get there. The whole premise of this is you are what you eat. And that was like in that article earlier that I brought up, personalized nutrition. You are what you eat, and we're able to personalize the food that we're eating specifically for us. Okay, and tracing it all the way back to the origin of where it came from. So a lot of this with sustainably sourced means that we're going to know exactly where that food came from. We're going to be able to trace all the way back to the farm, to the field, but also to the practices and the management that was done on that field and on that acre of soil. Okay? So utilizing the precision tools that we already have right now that are collecting in the field data, sending it to the cloud, and combining that information for us, aggregating that data, and storing it in the cloud already. Right now, we all go then and help those farmers to try to interpret it, maybe make some decisions off of it, but we really haven't been fully utilizing all that data to its fullest potential quite yet. But utilizing sustainable ag and whatnot, we're going to be able to get there and be able to utilize that data to show the end consumer, to show the big food companies, here's what we are doing, here's why it is a good system, here's the progress that we're making to be more environmentally friendly, to improve efficiencies, to clean up the water, clean up the air. We got to kind of play with some of the hippie stuff in this, but there's some dollar figures that can help to drive us to be able to go forward and adopt these things. The groups that are really pushing this are a couple of these on here, especially Land O'Lakes, and we'll get into that later with their relationship with Winfield. Land O'Lakes has a department called Land O'Lakes Sustain. They're really ones that are pushing to put some data behind sustainably sourcing of food. General Mills, Kellogg's, Campbell's, Amazon now owns Whole Foods. Many companies saying we're going to be sustainably sourced and we're going to be greener and these kind of parameters. Okay, so that's why this is important. Is these big companies from the top are saying we need to be more sustainable. We need to show the consumer where their food is coming from, and we need to be able to show that we're producing a better quality product. Because like I started this with, everyone is going to understand their own nutritional needs and personalizing their nutrition to fit their own person. So we've got to be able to play a part of that. Okay? So, sorry, my formatting got screwed up on this computer. So, what they're saying is that in order to be sustainable, we need to be able to have a metric to be able to monitor who is sustainable, who is not, and be able to have some kind of grading system that we can get a premium off of. There's some groups that are already starting this. ADM was offering a premium for soybeans raised on cover crop farms. Indigo Ag is able to get a premium off of the crops that they're producing. Farmers Business Network is working on something very similar. There's companies that are already setting this up to drive some premium-based marketplaces for how the crop is produced. Very similar to organic, non-GMO, grass-fed. There are already labels that are helping to show value, whether it just be perceived value or true value. They are able to connect with the consumer better to say, here's what we're doing, and here is the added dollar figure associated with the efforts that we're making to farm the way that the consumer wants us to be farming. Okay, so these companies are putting together metrics to be able to monitor this and be able to pay us a premium for our efforts that we're making. What they're doing is they're putting together platforms where you enter in your data, you enter in your grower's data, and to be able to tell the platform how that crop was produced. Right now, you'd go on there and you'd enter in your information and say, did this farm get cover crops? Yes or no? Did this farm have reduced tillage? Yes or no? Did it have a stabilizer? Yes or no? Are we practicing split applications? Yes or no? Those kind of things. Just check the box, yes or no. The more boxes you check, the more points that you get, and the higher up the ranking you are for getting a premium for fitting into these markets. So that has some flaws in it though. That we need to have some more data in behind that. We need to show that we really are driving a better quality product. Okay, so relating this to what if we looked at soil health and sustainability the same way that what if we looked at human health in the same way that we're looking at soil health and sustainability? That we're going to do a national or global assessment of human health. Okay, so if we're going to do a global assessment of human health, we would all go into our doctor to have an assessment. But if you went to that doctor's office for our assessment of human health, and all that doctor did was say, do you eat healthy? Do you work out? Do you get the right amount of sleep? Do you avoid tobacco? Just a couple of things on check the box, check the box. The more boxes that you check, the higher up the ranking you would be and give you a better score on how healthy you are. They rank everyone in the world on the more boxes that you check, the healthier that you are. They would never say, what's your height and weight? What's your blood pressure? What's your cholesterol? What's your body mass index? What's your microbiome and your DNA and some of those more intense things that I talked about before? They never do the actual scientific assessment to monitor your human health. All they do is say, are you doing this? Are you doing this? Are you doing this? The management practices. And then do an evaluation based on that. They also would evaluate every single person in the world on the same scale, which we know can also not be done. That each person, their health is different based on their own person. What's healthy for a man is different than what's healthy for a woman on a scale of a ranking system. Your age is going to be different as well. What makes a young guy versus an older guy healthy is a little bit different kind of a scale. So we have to be able to utilize personalized data to be able to monitor human health. Same kind of thing for soil health. We need to not only be looking at, are you using cover crops and reducing tillage and using stabilizers and whatnot, but are you really making an impact and really improving crop quality in the way that these markets want to see? Why that's important is all of that management data and that soil data, agronomic data from the farm will all be directly connected to that consumer into their personalized nutrition via blockchain, via the Internet of Things. Everything is collecting data for us. And with 5G internet makes this instantaneous to show that consumer exactly where their food is coming from. We need to be ready to show them, here's how we're doing things, here's the progress that we've made to be better, now support our efforts. Okay, so that helps us to be able to fit in with our customers and set ourselves apart from some of the competition in our spaces. These are the markets that are driving this. This list is put together from some folks down at the Noble Foundation, which is a nonprofit group that is kind of organizing these companies, organizing the government side, the ag side, the food side, and they're putting together, here's the components that we need to be monitoring. A lot of this is very environmentally driven, which is where soil health kind of started out. Okay, so we're saying we need to reduce our impact on global, whether it be global warming or climate change or whatever it is now, that we need to be able to reduce our greenhouse gases no matter what it is. And one of the best ways to be able to do that is put that carbon, put that CO2 back in the soil. Build organic matter, build organic carbon, feed those microbes and be able to hold more water. It makes sense for us too. So we need to monitor that organic carbon level. That's important because companies like Walmart are saying that we need to reduce our carbon footprint. So how do they do that? They can only clean up their trucks and make them so efficient. They can only clean up their factories and make them so efficient to offset their greenhouse gas emissions. They will utilize us as farmers to be able to say, hey, the more carbon you can put back into the soil to offset all the pollutants that we're putting in the air, we will pay you for that. Okay, so that's what carbon credits means. Same thing for water quality and water quantity. Okay, so the more that you can clean up the water and show that you're being efficient, especially with nitrogen and phosphorus, keeping those nutrients out of the water, you get paid extra for helping to do that. Right now, you get cost share money and that kind of thing for it, but when it's coming from the consumer, it helps to make those economics even better for us. Same thing for water quantity. So groups like up in Cedar Rapids that are worried about flooding, they're saying the more water that we can hold in the farm and keep it out of the water system and have all this water coming at once, that's better for us. It reduces flooding, reduces some issues that come along with a lot of water running through in a short amount of time. And it's better for us too to hold water out into the field, not when it's too much, but we want to be able to hold that water in the soil structure and organic matter and whatnot. And the fourth piece that is actually not part of what these groups are saying right now, but relates back to how I started this talk, is that markets and premiums will also be driven by crop quality, because you are what you eat, and we need to make sure that we're producing a better quality product for the end consumer and show it with data. We'll kind of end here with how we're going to do this and get a little bit tactical here. So all this information will be reported to the grain buyer, whether that be we're taking it to the river or we're taking it to the big hog guys or whatever it may be. It's showing them that information of here's how I produce this crop. Here's all my information, here's my data, which can help them to drive a premium for that crop. Right now, a lot of these groups are looking at a 10-cent per bushel premium. That's not very much. When that ups to 10, 15, 25%, that changes things a lot. If we're helping our farmers to be able to bring in an extra 10 to 25% extra revenue, that really changes the game and allows us to do the things that we want to do and allows us to help these guys out. Those markets that I laid out on the last page, coming from the Noble Foundation, their timeline on having this at scale and having this economic chain in place is 2022. Okay, that's where we're talking about this now, because we've got 4 years to really be there and really have all this going. And right now, we've got other tools to be able to help to pay for it in the short term. Reporting all this stuff through, to be able to show the data. We've got a data analytics tool to be able to help to calibrate the information and help you guys to be able to show the reporting. And we'll get into some of this because, like I said, I know some of you guys are working with our growers as well and helping to make the fertility applications that we are gaining or that we're producing with this more thorough data. Okay, so here's what we're doing, is that we're no longer doing 2.5 acre grids, and we're doing zones instead. The reason being is that we're collecting a lot more data. We need to be able to monitor our organic carbon. We need to be able to monitor the carbon coming out of the atmosphere and putting it back in the soil. That's with organic carbon, biological activity, some of the parameters that are given to us in the Haney soil health test. That's how we're quantifying this. We need to be able to monitor better the nutrient cycling and nutrient efficiencies and soil functionality in the soil. We're doing that with soil DNA analysis and soil microbiome analysis. We need to be able to monitor that we're being more efficient with our nitrogen and our phosphorus. So we need to be able to quantify all the different forms of nitrogen and phosphorus, nitrate, ammonium, and organic nitrogen forms. Those are amino acids and that kind of stuff that are in the soil, coming out of our manure, and coming out of the crop residue. We need to be able to look at phosphorus in the inorganic form, P2O5, like we've been looking at, but also in some of the organic forms of phosphorus that are also in the soil that are cycling back into the system. By monitoring more of this data, we can help our farmers to become more efficient. Save some money on the front end. We can utilize better products like we're going to see today to help us to be more efficient. And there's a major, major long-term play on this as well. The last thing here is it's just helping to be able to improve the 4 Rs and to find better placement. You guys have the technology now to be able to spread fertilizer at a much more accurate placement and much more accurate rates. We're just saying, here's some better data to also fit into that to assess and help our guys save some money. This actually showed that we're going to reduce some of our potash input. We're going to offset some of that by utilizing improved products. We're going to utilize micronutrient and whatnot on this as well. So our actual fertilizer dollar at the end of the day doesn't really change, and neither does you guys's. We're just saying, okay, we no longer have to focus as much on potash on this farm. We're able to allocate more of that dollar to the next things and improve that crop quality and do better as we go forward. I better kind of close it up here. I don't know how I'm doing with time. I can talk for hours. So. But here's more info on me. We definitely tried to keep her going. But we'd definitely love to chat more. Like I said, we're right down the road from you guys, working with a lot of you already. Just wanted to show, okay, here's why this is important, that we do need to help our farmers to do better. We need to help these guys to become more efficient, save them some money up front, because if our farmers aren't being sustainable, which also means their farm has to sustain itself and to make money year over year. If our farmers aren't being sustainable and aren't around for a long time, we're not going to be either. So that's why it's important to be helping these guys out, understand what's going on, and be prepared for emerging things coming right down the pipeline, because a lot of this, like I said, it's already here. So being ready for that. We've got a lot more info and whatnot online, and would love to chat with you guys anytime. Any questions? Yeah, if we got a quick question or two. I'm around, so.
I'm going to fire one at you.
Perfect.
So, I agree with all this. This is where we need to go. But how do I, as an individual farmer out here, get connected with the right people to be able to get me these prices you're talking?
Oh, for the marketing at the end of the day?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the question is, how do I as a farmer fit into some of these premium driven markets and whatnot, and find some of these added dollar figures and whatnot to help me out? So right now, you can take it to ADM over Muscatine. If you're in their program, they've got to sign up and whatnot to it to be able to pay a little bit of a premium for the soybeans that were raised on cover crop farms. If you're going through Indigo Ag or going through Farmers Business Network, it's all online. You're saying, here's my crop, here's my data, and now I can source or I can sell that crop online. Whether it be then I got to deliver it there, or whether then it be it's getting picked up at the farm. One of the big ones that some of these meetings here in the next couple of years are going to get really interesting, that through Land O'Lakes, like I said, is really driving a lot of this. So they're saying all that data going into R7 already is already connected. We know what that farm is doing for management practices. We already know that it's got cover crop, and here's the tillage practices, here's the fertilizer and stabilizers, and the yield at the end of the day. We already know that we're becoming more efficient. So we're able to help to source that product through that same system, through the network that they have developed, to be able to then sell their product to General Mills or to Campbell's or Kellogg's or whoever it may be, Quaker and whatnot, and turn it into different products. I think the same thing even for ethanol plants and whatnot will be on this as well, because they're all looking to reduce their carbon footprint. So if they could source corn from farms who are offsetting their carbon footprint by building organic matter and by building organic carbon and biological activity, that's where they'll pay extra for that information. A lot of this though, it's submitting that data online, and it's showing here's what we're doing, because that consumer is going to see all of it already. We're already collecting it. Now we just have to use it and help our farmers to be able to utilize their data. So a lot of this right now, you're not going to go and get a big old premium here in 2019. But what you can do is you can get cost share, you can offset, you can improve, and you can be prepared, because this stuff is coming. Like I said, 2022 is where it's really at scale. I'm working on setting this as a better pilot area to do it, and to be able to model a lot of this information and set up these markets here, because we already have a lot of data. We already have a lot of guys who are in this system already, just kind of naturally. So let's prove the system here. Good question.
Great answers.
Anyway, well, if you guys got more questions, there's my info. I got cards and stuff too. And